The Labour Party has changed. In fact, it's changed so much that it's getting support from former Tory ministers. First up, Anna Soubry on LBC discussing her preference for Prime Minister.
I will vote to make sure that we have Keir Starmer in number 10 and we don't have the Conservatives in government anymore. Because I'm afraid they are not fit to govern.
Anna Soubry, former Conservative minister, lest we forget, criminal barrister to boot. Very happy New Year to you.
Then I came across an incredibly cringeworthy but equally revealing article in The Times, which a lot of people can't read since it's behind a paywall, but this is now Labour's target audience. Rachel Reeves for first female Chancellor. George Osborne thinks so. Business leaders, banks, and even the former Tory Chancellor George Osborne are all fans of Labour's Rachel Reeves. What's the 43-year-old state school-educated former economist doing to impress them? Then coupled with the title, you can see a really, really embarrassingly stylized photo shoot image of Reeves, client journalism at its best. Further down the article, you can see a couple of quotes that encapsulates the current iteration of the Labour Party. A few days before my interview with Rachel Reeves, I saw her at a party. So pause there already. A Times journalist at the same party as Rachel Reeves, the Shadow Chancellor, because these people operate in the same circles. It's a big indicator of how much Labour will be supporting the status quo. Let's continue. The room was packed with Labour MPs and advisors dancing to Things Could Only Get Better. And discussing whether they could really be on the verge of regaining power. But Reeves, wearing a striking green dress with a glass of wine in her hand, was deep in conversation with George Osborne. It gave a fascinating insight into the woman who could soon be Britain's first female Chancellor. I wouldn't say that's particularly insightful, but nevertheless, you have Rachel Reeves at a party with advisors, with Tory MPs, including the worst Chancellor we've ever had with his country-destroying austerity programme. Now, all these people are mingling with our most likely new Chancellor, which is Rachel Reeves. Reeves is sufficiently open-minded and non-tribal, pragmatic and intellectually self-confident to seek advice from a political rival. She is willing to listen to anyone who might make her better at her job. So in other words, she has no values, she has no principles. Rachel Reeves is getting tips from George Osborne to make her a better Chancellor. You see, this is all a game to them. It's now Labour's turn for power, but only a Labour Party that doesn't disrupt the status quo. Media pundits will talk about how much this is a big win for Labour, a party that are now ready to govern, and right-wing Blairite MPs think this is how you do politics, that in order to win, you need Tory support. Tory voters, yes. Ex-Tory chancellors who helped induce 120,000 deaths due to austerity, definitely not. Now, can anyone explain to me why former Tory ministers, bankers, CEOs, and a large chunk of the mainstream media are now in support of Keir Starmer as Prime Minister? Did Anna Soubry, did George Osborne change their minds? Did they change their ideology? Have they suddenly become more compassionate? No, of course not. This is objectively not a good thing. Labour hasn't gone to the country, hasn't pitched their arguments as to why the Tories are not fit to govern anymore, why they shouldn't be in power, and that a new direction is needed to fix a lot of the issues the country's facing. In fact, there's been zero debate. There's been no robust challenge on policy, but rather management skills. They're telling voters that the Conservatives are incompetent and that they should be in power, that a lot of the policies are the same, especially immigration. Keir Starmer literally said himself, our immigration policy is the same, and then they're attacking the Conservatives for not doing a good enough job on it. So they simply moved into Tory territory. Fine. But when Labour ultimately disappoints after years in government, then the cycle will just continue. The whole point of a transformative government is to break that cycle, to break the cycle of neoliberalism, to break the cycle of austerity. A policy programme that actually lasts. Anything Starmer does will be undone because it will be built on a very flimsy framework. Having said that, probably a lot of Labour's policies will be copied out of a typical Tory manifesto, so alas, no reversal needed. Labour have pretty much come out in support of austerity. They've clearly come out in support of more privatisation of the NHS, instead of standing up to the greedy profiteers of our healthcare. I can see a repeat of 1997 on the cards, but then what happened after? We'll also see a repeat of 2010, a repeat of 2015, and everything since. Blairites have got their party back. The mainstream press are joyous in the return to sensible politics. And we are now in a post-ideological battle for number 10. The ideas aren't about a vision for the country. It's just simply, we will manage this country better than the other guys. And this may well win. We're looking at a huge Labour landslide because the Tory party has collapsed. But as I've just pointed out, when they get into power and don't change the things, because there's so much going on at the moment when it comes to climate change, when it comes to jobs and automation, inequality, cost of living crisis, when they ultimately don't address these things, yes, the Tories will get back in power. But that's fine for mainstream journos, client journalists, those that go to the parties are the same as, well, both Labour and Tory MPs getting close to Rachel Reeves, the likely new Chancellor, because it is a game to them. It's fun for them. But in the real world, millions of people are struggling, and there is not a main political party that is actually standing up to them. It's almost hard to believe that 5 years ago, we had I wouldn't say radical. For Britain, it was a radical social democratic programme from Labour, 2017 to 2019. And to be fair, a Conservative Party under Boris Johnson, in which he wasn't so driven to force neoliberalism. He was happy to spend on the economy like he did with furlough. And whatever your views of the party leaders, they were meaty, big arguments on the vision of the country and what direction we should be going in. Now we're just back to the plain old, all politicians are the same. Both political parties sing from the same hymn sheet, and we're going to be facing a very, very dark couple of decades.